All right. Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Brubaker, and this is Career Search Lunch and Learn. And yes, I have changed the name. It's not Job Search Lunch and Learn anymore, although it still says so on the chat link, and I need to change that. But the reason that I changed it to Career Search rather than just Job Search is that one of the things we've discovered over time is that looking for a career, making that decision about where you want to be is about more than just finding that next job. It's finding where you want to be. And that could be something very similar to what you used to do. It could be in a slightly different industry. It could be a slightly different function. It could be that you're going to string together a series of short-term contract roles. And it might be that you've decided that what you want to do is add those contract roles, those gig roles, to what it is you want to do. So you're doing a combination of here I am in job search as well as doing my own thing. So I might be self-employed and working for somebody else at the same time. Excuse me. So that's why the name is changing, and you're going to see that change in a variety of the things that we do. Wanted to remind you that I am, let me see, Linda Brubaker, and I am a job searcher, a career transitions coach. What I do is that I work with people, and my only sales pitch right now, it's in the chat, is that I work with people who are in a career transition. And I do that with a variety of different resources, everything from job search strategy to LinkedIn strategy to trying to figure out how best to present yourself both online and in your applications, and how to do a lot of that interview prep. That's a lot of what I'm doing these days is interview prep part, as well as that search strategy. Where do I really want to be when I grow up? And to be honest with you, most of us don't know, and it's okay. The whole idea is that you find what works for you today, and that can change tomorrow. I come to this work with over 20 years of experience in HR. As an HR business partner, a recruiter, an external recruiter, a headhunter, executive search consultant, as well as a hiring manager. And I bring all of that experience and add it to my 8 years in career coaching or job search coaching to bring you the information that works. This is my passion project, is giving you that information, supporting you in any way that I can. And it's supported by the private coaching that I do. But this is my give back role. It's my way of saying, look, I know you don't want to be here. We want to give you the support you can get in order to move from here to whatever that next forever spot is. Over the time that I've been doing this, 918 of the people that I've worked with have gotten offers since I moved into coaching. So I know that what we're talking about works, not just based on that success, based on my HR experience, but also on the research that I continually do, the contacts that I continually make with other people who are in hiring, who are hiring managers, with my HR colleagues, and with all the other resource materials out there to make sure that the information that we're providing you is that which is most up to date. And for part of that, I rely on Sue. And I'm going to let Sue introduce herself now because Sue does the same thing. And she's one of the supporters for all of you and for me as well.
Thanks, Linda. I love the new title, Career Search. I'm getting up my red and blue freedom pom-poms. I am the mentor with pom-poms. I work with people in transition. But here's something important that Linda said that actually Linda and several other coaches who all keep in touch and get together have noticed. In the last year, so many of you have been talking about taking contracts, sometimes contract to hire, sometimes contract. And even if you're not employed right now, you're still job hunting, you're still running a business. Why do I say this? Because I've realized over the last year and helped a lot of people who contact me that you need to do exactly what Linda just said. I call it always be looking. Make sure you're in charge of your career, but also the world is moving towards much more self-employment. You may not want it to be that way, but a recent report at the end of December in 2024 said over 20,000 hiring manager companies of hiring managers were looking at doing much more contracting, freelancing, call it what you will work, where you're not going to be a full employee. I don't want to discourage you because what I see your experience right now as taking forward, as Linda said, the way that you're piecing together your jobs. A lot of you are doing side hustles of some kind, trying to make sure you can pay the rent. And while you're still applying for jobs, remember to give yourself credit that you are that solopreneur, self-employed, call it what you feel comfortable. I've identified about 8 different titles people use for it. But acknowledge that you're actually not just doing something, taking certificate courses, which is great. You're actually running a business, especially because we've crossed into new tax season again. So I'm here to support you. I love that Linda reminded people about the private group, and I've seen a lot of activity there. And today I want you to think forward, not just greeting each other and connecting, which is important, but also with all these questions that are going to be asked, write down what you hear the answers being most significant. People will begin to see you for contributing to the body of knowledge when you attend webinars of any kind. All right, Linda, I went on much longer, but celebration
No, that was
for
great
your
because
new career, sir.
I appreciate that. And what I like is the fact that you highlighted some of the things that I'd forgotten, like making sure that you're putting your information in the chat. We want you to be active there. We want you to be active in the private group. We want you to be active on LinkedIn. Okay, we're all here to support you, but we can't do that unless you make some of that effort too. So that's what this is all about. Now, if you've been here before, you know that we usually start with some quick wins. So if you have a quick win, please, oh, I see Jim already has his hand raised. He knows the story. Because we have a number of people in the room, really want you to be able to use that raised hand function. It's either on the bottom of the screen, or you can just wave your hand in the air and we will find you, but we want to be able to highlight you and celebrate you too. Here you go, Jim.
Yeah, so I've been holding this back for a few weeks, I've known, and next week I'm going to start a boot camp in CNC programming. And the state of New Jersey is paying for it.
Yay!
Yeah, and one of our another attendee hasn't been here in a while, Nancy Aronson, she completed that earlier in the year. So, they're starting a new cohort. So I said, hey, what the heck? It's a foot in the door somewhere just to learn some new skills. And yeah.
That's fantastic. And are you doing that through the WIOA program?
No, it's a grant it's at the community college, and they got a grant from the state because there's a lot of demand in advanced manufacturing. So
Yep.
Yeah. What the heck?
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Okay. And Nancy isn't here because when she finished that boot camp, she went on to other things, which is a nice thing.
She did. So I said, hey, it worked for her. Well, I got to try that,
Absolutely. I think that's great.
It's only 52 classes, so for 12 weeks. So, and I just need to buy a laptop, an expensive laptop, but that's okay. We'll see.
You know what? You can probably deduct it. Since Sue mentioned that this was start of a new fiscal year in many cases for taxes, check with your accountant. If it's being used for job search, it's part of your materials, it might be. I know the classes can be. So.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your encouragement here in the comments. So thank you.
Absolutely. So make sure that you tell us how it goes.
Okay. Well, it's 7 in the morning to 12:30 in the afternoon. So, I might make it here on time towards the end. So we'll see.
Even if you don't, we understand. You can drop in anytime or just comment in the private group and let us know.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for
also do it on LinkedIn, talking about the fact that you're doing it.
Oh, so yeah. I'm going to put posts out there. Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Jim,
Barbara, I see you waving your hand in the air.
Yeah, because I was interested if Jim could please post your LinkedIn URL so that I can connect with you, because I'm actually in New Jersey also, and I'm considering one of these like the WOIA grants.
WIOA.
Training. Yep. Yeah, WIOA, yes. And
so those, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. So I'm looking at a few different options, and I actually went to a fair last week at Middlesex County College, where they had a lot of the trainers who are there, and I'm on the waiting list for Middlesex County because it's done by county. So I just was interested in maybe chatting with you further, Jim, so that I could find out what your experience has been, and if you could just remind. I didn't hear the first part. What did you get your training, or what are you getting your training in?
So it's CNC programming, where you program machines that make components and parts, and I think you can also use it for 3D printing. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool.
No, that's great. Thank you. So I really appreciate that, and I'll certainly let you know if that's what if I'm pursuing something through a type of state grant as well.
Okay, good luck.
Absolutely. I highly encourage all of you to take a look at some of those WIOA grants. There was something in the chat. WIOA stands for Workforce Innovation Opportunities Act. It is a federal grant, okay, that goes out to the states to provide resources for people who are unemployed or underemployed to learn new skills to help them get that new job. So that idea about the CNC programming, that's a big one. Okay, that's one of the areas that's growing. What I like about the grant program is that it gives you the opportunity to learn those new skills and it doesn't cost you anything. What I don't like about the grant program, as somebody who's worked very closely with it, is that many times they will suggest that you go to some of these outside providers. Community colleges are great. They're going to give you great information. If they're suggesting that you go to an outside provider, a fee-for-service provider for those training programs, you won't have to pay for it, but their goal is to sell you the services, not necessarily to provide you great ones. So make sure you're doing your due diligence, check them out, ask for references from people who have attended there and what's worked for them and what hasn't. With the WIOA grant, you get X number of dollars to use in your lifetime. And all of those dollars have to be spent within the same provider. And those providers know it, those outside providers know it, so they may try and encourage you to take programs that may not necessarily work for you because those are the ones they want to fill. So just be careful if you have questions about the classes that you want to take and whether or not they're good classes or a good provider, give me a ding, okay, DM me. Let's have a chat and we'll see what we can do with them. Sue.
When you get ready to do welcomes, we do have one new person today, so.
Excellent.
Her
Thank you.
name's Erin Barron when you're ready.
Perfect. But I see first that we've got another. Okay, here we go. Hello, Denise.
Hi, I just wanted to give a small win after applying for a lot of jobs and getting those wonderful thank you for applying emails. I received an email yesterday asking for a uh, like basically a screening of 5 questions to see what my communication style is. So before they go on to the rounds of interviews, so I'm excited because I applied for this job. I looked at my records mid-May. So I was like thinking that was out of the picture. So that was the first time I've heard from him.
Excellent. And that's a great win. Okay. Now, by the way, the fact that you heard applied in mid-May and you're just hearing now, that's not unusual.
Okay.
The longest
you.
that I've heard was somebody who applied in October and didn't get an interview until May.
Wow.
So you never know. Okay. Did we have any other quick wins? Lewis.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a win, but it's a win in gaining some information. So as I've mentioned, I had an interview and I felt it really went well. And then last week by Friday, I was supposed to have an answer. Well, I got my answer. And if you'll allow me to just briefly give you a synopsis on how this went, and people can say, here's the way she said thanks, but no thanks. Basically, they weren't going to extend the second round of interviews for me because they deemed my experience and acquired skills relevant and significant to the responsibilities, but decided there were other candidates in their applicant pool that seemed to be a better fit in comparison. So in return, I always do this. This was something that someone taught me, responding back and saying, thanking them, for their time. And I really didn't expect that. That wasn't the answer that I was looking for, but because I thought it was a good fit, yada, yada. And then, saying, you mentioned that I had these experience and skills that were significant, but decided there were other candidates. Anything you can share about resume you or why others were a great fit. Linda, this is why I feel like I'm laughing because I feel like AI wrote this. Let me just say it almost word for word. No, there's no feedback I can share that would require you to change anything about how you showed up in our conversation, nor to your credentials. Your experiences speak for themselves and are solid. Ultimately, the role is more of an entry level role, and after additional consideration of the extensiveness of your experiences, including leadership responsibilities, you're quite advanced for the role in comparison to the larger applicant pool, which is why I don't think it would ultimately be a good fit for you. This role, as well as compensation, is more aligned with someone who has some prior experience but is still fairly new into their career pursuits. What a wonderful way to basically say you're overqualified.
It is. And actually, I'm surprised that you got that kind of a response.
I was too. I thought you would maybe say briefly, no, you did great and we really appreciate your time. I mean, as also recommended to everybody, if you didn't get it, but you really liked the organization and felt, follow up in about 60-ish days. And when you know that time of that person that got hired may and may not be working out. And if that isn't the case, someone said, then follow up a few months later, if you really truly liked it, if it was a good fit. But yeah, I was like the banter back and forth was more than I've ever gotten. Usually you get the brief and then they don't say anything else. So yes, it's not a win because I didn't get hired, but it was a win for basically them saying, you're really solid, continue in the work you're doing. I now have to talk to some people about how do I leverage the experience I have to let people know I'm okay with an entry level. I know we talk about that in other Zoom calls about compensation and over qualified, but I just thought I would share that with the group.
Right. So the phrase is, I applied for this job because this is what I want to do now. Okay. I understand that you may think that you don't want to say this, but
yeah,
basically you're saying, I know that you think that I'm overqualified. I'm really not. This is where my heart is. This is where my skills are. I really am looking forward to working with you in this position moving forward, or one similar moving forward.
Yeah. And, I may respond one more time with something similar to that, but I just wanted to share it with the group. I felt it was important for everybody to hear because, you never know what you're going to get and we can only improve and learn from it.
Absolutely. Thank you. And the idea of sending those thank yous after an interview, okay, really important, guys. Okay, it keeps you on their mindset. It may get you some feedback, and I'll tell you, this is the most feedback I've heard from somebody in a very long time. Most companies aren't willing to provide that kind of feedback. Their legal eagles tell them no, but I think that's really great. And the idea is now keep up with them on LinkedIn, keep commenting on their posts, keep in touch with them because you really don't know what's going to happen.
And I'll say two other things. I always send a thank you letter. Obviously, I'm not there in person, so I sent it by email. If I choose to send them a nice written note. And the other thing is I followed up with a job I applied for and still hadn't heard anything. It's been over 2 weeks. And she goes, oh, I'm really sorry. Been real busy. So-and-so's been out of the country. I'll follow up with you in the next couple of days. So obviously, sometimes they're waiting to give you that bad email. This one was a different job to basically say, whoops, we haven't missed the mark. We've just been busy and haven't done any extra interviews. So it's always good to communicate, like you said, Linda, no matter what.
Absolutely. You have nothing to lose by that follow-up. You only have something to gain. As long as what you're not doing is pounding them. Why haven't I heard from you? Why haven't I heard from you? Right? It's, I'm really so excited. I know how busy you must be. I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Yep.
That's actually the only thing you have to say.
Yep. Thanks, Linda.
Absolutely. Do we have anyone else? If not, I'm going to try and find Aaron. I see you waving your hand. Welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. I think I spoke with you several years ago briefly on when you were still at the community college.
Yes, I think so.
So yeah, I followed you, so I saw this was happening. So I was like, oh, that's a good meeting to attend. I have recently had a contract end, and so I'm back in the market. I work in customer insights market research, and I was working for Pepco, which is one of the utilities under Exelon, which is also ComEd. Um, and it's a little bit weird. There's like probably like a 60% shot that I'm going to get a job at the parent company, but it's not going to be posted till August, maybe September. So I can't really count on that. I mean, it'd be nice if it happens. And I've been touching base with the hiring manager for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. But it's just kind of on hold. So now I'm just, yeah, back and trying to figure out where I can most um, work on myself. I think my intro is probably the biggest thing, is trying to sell myself better.
Okay. The idea is once you have a contract, always be looking.
Sure. I was there almost 2 years, but yeah.
Okay, because you never know when that contract is going to end. But the other thing about a contract that's a good thing is not only are you getting the new skills, you're also getting those internal references. So the
Sure.
fact that you think that you may be having that opportunity at the parent company, that's really great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let us know how we can support you. Make sure, by the way, that all of you have your contact information in the private group. And then let's go from there. Okay. Any other quick wins or any other newbies? You're in. Mhm.
Heather Johnson's waving her hand.
I know, I just found her.
Oh,
There we
good.
go.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad I found this group. It was recommended to me by Jeannie Page Sonkrant. I don't know if you know who she is. She is a dear friend of mine, and she has her own kind of career group that she has started, which I am going to be participating in. I participated in it about a while ago. But I'm going to be returning to it as I find myself again in a situation where I'm trained as in social work, counseling, sociology, have most experience in case management and counseling, and recently left a position in March, where I was an outpatient therapist, and have just spent the last couple months reevaluating because I found myself totally overwhelmed and extremely unhappy in an outpatient therapist role, feeling very siloed, feeling very alone. I missed the collaborative work that I was doing as a case manager. Not sure I want to stay within mental health. So I'm like joining this group because I'm interested in learning what other opportunities might be out there, what direction I can go in with my experience. And perhaps not in a clinical setting, but just open to new possibilities and ideas and just what I can do with my experience. I also have experience in education a little bit, not a whole lot. Don't have the formal training as a teacher, but did spend some time working as a substitute teacher, an aide, which I really enjoyed. But not real sure I want to go back to that either, working with children. That opens a whole another can of worms when you work with children. So yeah, I'm located in New Jersey, southern New Jersey. And I actually worked for the county at one period of my life, and I was working with that WIOA grant. I was a gatekeeper for the county's program with that. So I was reviewing resumes and seeing fitness for candidates to be a part of that and receive that training grant. So that is something that I've considered looking into. I figured as I have extensive education experience, that I would not be eligible for that. But Anyway, here I am.
Okay, so the job that you had before does not eliminate you from training grants.
Okay.
Okay, it really is whether or not the skills that you're looking to do, what to add, are things that are needed for the new role that you're looking for that you don't already have.
Mhm.
Okay,
Any other?
now I can't tell you whether your state is going to accept you or not. Each
Right.
state has their own rules.
Right.
I wouldn't stop you from applying.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It will not go for a degree, but it will go for a training program.
Right. Right.
So try it.
Yeah. Hey, Heather. Just
Yes.
let you know, I also know Jeannie Page Songcrant.
Do you? Okay.
And I've been working with her regarding my job search as well.
Okay.
And I've been looking for a position as a help desk analyst, IT
Yes.
help desk analyst.
Yes.
And my job search is not going well at all. Basically, I've had a couple interviews, but no real responses at all. So it's like I have a variety of frustrations I'm dealing with as well.
Mm.
So I've been interacting with her and her group and all that. So they've been helping me with that. I'm also looking into possibly going back for my certifications, updating my certifications as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. Great. Well, maybe I'll see you at one of the events or
She's
meet you in
got one
person
on
or
July 10th at the Haddonfield United Methodist Church.
yes. Yes.
So I might.
Yes, I'm planning on being there.
Good.
You
So
gonna do
there are
that?
lots, I'm sorry, there are lots of networking groups, both online as well as in person. So find the ones that work best for you. And it's okay to do more than one because you're going to get different information, make different contacts from each one that's out there.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Let's get to some of the questions that you all might have. And while you've got a question, if you've got a question, please put the word question all in caps in the chat so that we can make sure to find you. You can also raise your digital hand and wave it around so that we can make sure that we're getting to you. We want to get as many of those questions answered as possible. Now, when we first started the meeting, David had one. Okay. David, you want to go back to your question?
Yes. If you apply for a job at a company and that company does something good, for example, they open up a new building or they make some great new breakthrough, would reposting that story about that company on your LinkedIn profile, would that be a good idea?
So reposting it, what do you mean by reposting it? Just putting it out there?
Well, it not really well, maybe kind of like this, kind of like describing it, maybe adding your own little praise to it and then giving a link to it. And it's not necessarily on LinkedIn, probably might be a local news media.
So one of the things you can do, okay, is check to see whether or not the company posted it themselves. If the company posted it on LinkedIn, comment on it,
Fine.
okay? If the company has not posted it, then you can just do it as a very broad, okay? Hey, great things are happening in my area and I'm not sure any, it's an indicator of how the market is going and then do a little comment. But you don't want to be seen posting an article about a company that you're not a part of yet, unless you're doing it in that broader base. Commenting, yes, but saying, hey, look, here's this great company out there, unless you've got some sort of connection that you can make.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
that's fine.
Okay. Anybody else have questions or comments about that one? Or a different point of view? And the reason that I say, David, don't post it just the article yourself unless you can put some sort of tie-in to what's going on in the market in your area or something else. You don't want it to be just seen as that one company that you're promoting when you're not part of that company.
And David, if you've interviewed with that company before or something, you could use that article and send it to that person you interviewed with and say, I've been keeping up with the trends or whatever. I saw this article, thought you want to be interested if you haven't seen it yet. That way you're on the top of their mind because you might not have gotten the job then, but oh, they're going, well, this guy's keeping up on us and the industry, and you know what? Maybe we need to circle back with him. So
Right.
that's another idea.
Absolutely. And you don't even need to send them the article. You just need to comment. Send them an email. I just saw this. It's really great. Okay. I love the things that you're doing. That kind of thing. But absolutely great advice, Leah. Lois. I saw another question in the chat, but I'm not sure where. If you've got another question, can you raise your digital hand, or Sue, can you help point me in the right direction?
I can tell you what, oh yes, it was Aaron Kruger wanting to talk about ageism. So Aaron Kruger.
Okay.
Hi.
Aaron, can you wave at me? There you are.
Hey, quick question. So I've got about 26 years of experience in my field. I'm in the marketing and advertising on the design side, and it is kind of a known thing in my industry, unfortunately, that when you get into your whatever mid 30s or 40s, that you're considered old now for your career. That you're not up to speed on cultural relevance and that kind of thing. And I was kind of hiding that experience in my LinkedIn profile, like keeping it general. If I held a creative director position, instead of calling it creative director, I called it like a creative lead. And the reason is that what I realized is that I want to stay more true to the work and get involved in the work and not managing people. But I have a lot of experience being a team leader. I just don't want to manage people anymore. So I'm trying to figure out how to balance that spirit with wanting to make a conscious choice in staying close to the work and not managing people. But I don't want people to think, oh, he's overqualified, or because he was a creative director, he's probably at this, age level. So I didn't know if other people exist in their own field, or if there are other people out in this group that are in the same field I am, and maybe how you handle that.
It's a great question. Has anybody else been faced with that kind of a situation too, before I give my comments? Okay.
Well, I wouldn't say mine was ageism, but that last one experience I just gave, she basically said it was overqualified. So I've got to figure out what that means to her and how do I dumb it down for quote unquote an entry level role.
Debbie.
Yes, the email that I just received from this company, I actually attached a cover letter stating to them, my qualifications may look overqualified because I was an office manager and this is more of a billing role. I said that I'm making this a pivot intentionally because I am client-based or patient-based focused.
Perfect. So the cover letter is absolutely one way that you do that. In LinkedIn, adding some sort of a statement in your about section. Okay. Basically what you're saying is been there, done that, got the t-shirt, don't want to do that piece anymore. I want this.
Right.
Okay. A lot of people are doing that, making those kinds of pivots. It's perfectly acceptable. It works well. If you can explain to somebody that you're doing this as a conscious choice, as Debbie just mentioned, as opposed to I can't find anything else. And it may be you can't find anything else right now. So it's a transitional job, but even still, we don't want them to know that. We want them to think you're doing this on purpose.
Okay.
So the idea of trying to change your LinkedIn titles, okay, talking about that a little bit, absolutely. Cover letter each and every time in your professional summary on the resume for that job, even though you may have higher titles listed, you may want to say in that professional summary, focusing on such and such, choosing to focus on doing the work as opposed to managing the people.
Right.
Okay. Those individual contributor roles are highly important. And people need to understand, and they're finding out that a lot of us want to make those kinds of pivots. And you do it very well.
Great.
Yes. Okay, Jason.
So I just wanted to ask a question on the whole cover letter side of things.
Okay.
I feel like, and maybe this is just me, and I guess a question for the group, stemming from Aaron's question. Are cover letters really all that important these days? And that's the general question. The reason why I ask is really twofold. One, more and more HR departments are using AI, whether, to screen candidates or other processes, but not even just AI. Are more like recruiters are being slammed with hundreds of applications. So with the number that they each have, how many of them actually want to take the time to read through a cover letter when they could get an understanding even at a top level from a resume, top down, maybe they don't even get to page 2. But how many of them who are sitting on hundreds of applications and individuals who have submitted information are going to spend the time to read through a cover letter?
Sue, what do you think?
Well, interestingly enough, research that's been quoted for a lot of years was done again last year. 1/3 of recruiters will read a cover letter. 1/3 might, and 1/3 says they won't. But here's the other thing people forget about cover letters. 2 things. Number one, if it's attached to the back of your resume, if you can only do one upload document, or if it's separate, doesn't matter. The ATS is still going to scan that text.
Exactly.
And all that's in there. And the cover letter is your way of telling your story, highlighting what you want to highlight. So they don't have to go through and say, oh, he has 3 years in COBOL programming here and he has 2 years here. You summarize that I've had 5 years of the last 7 years in large corporations with whatever your way of doing it is. And by the way, it also prepares you for interviews, answering questions, doing introductions. So I say always write one. I know not everybody agrees, and even my family members are using AI to develop them, but I tell them, make it your own. I know, Linda, I cringe too, because if you can't write your cover letter, you're not going to talk about it. But
Exactly.
it's worth the effort because people will read them, and it can be a deciding factor. That's what the research continues to show.
And absolutely true. So my recommendation is always include a cover letter, even if it means you're attaching it as a page of your resume. Will the ATS read it? Absolutely. Will I read it? I think actually the more people are reading them if they are interested in you. Because one of the things the resume is that objective piece, right? Here's what I can do, here's how I prove it. The cover letter becomes you. This is the way you demonstrate how you write, how you communicate. More importantly, it's kind of that pre-answer to why do I want to work here? Why do you want to hire me? How do I make this specifically fit this role, this company? If all you're doing is summarizing what's in your resume, it's not worth it. I'll be honest with you. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Linda, I just wanted to make a comment on Aaron, and
Yes, please.
maybe it'll help Debbie too. What I see often in job seekers is you're sitting there feeling somewhat helpless because you're putting stuff out there, you're not getting responses. You forget that you control the conversation, especially we're lucky to have LinkedIn. So if you want to pivot, Aaron, you start writing posts or adding comments on other people's posts, or Debbie on bookkeeping, billing, did you say, that billing systems or whatever, not just I've got a certificate, but rather interesting articles showing that blah, blah, blah in AI. I mean, almost everything has an AI related article, but that puts you, just like in the chat box, as being a contributor who's staying up to date, who's adding value. And I wish I had a statistic, but someone, a very well-known recruiter, said a couple months ago, every recruiter and every hiring manager now goes immediately to LinkedIn before they even look at your resume. If your name appears on some search list, they're going to go to your LinkedIn first to see who you're connected to and how engaged you are. So that's an opportunity to talk to the other side of the convo.
Absolutely. And that whole engagement piece is so important. It's not just, hey, this is a great post. It's you making a comment that moves that conversation forward professionally. It's a great post because here's what I learned. Okay. Have you thought about? You can ask a question as part of it. But it makes you one of those go-to people because every time you comment, it shows up. It shows up on your posts, on your page, but it also shows up on their page. It shows up in their network. It helps to make you broader. And when Sue said people go take a look, they do. And one of the things they look at is not, okay, unless they're actually just searching for candidates. I don't care as much about that LinkedIn experience section. What I'm going to be looking at is your activity to see how involved you are. Am I going to be looking at the about section? Maybe. The first 4 or 5 lines. Maybe I'll read more, but my search engine is going to find those terms as well. Just like your cover letter, the about section is you. It tells your story. Okay. And talking about making a pivot there, building on this to do this, absolutely important. But those LinkedIn comments, those LinkedIn posts, I've had some people who've gotten job offers specifically because of what they've been doing on LinkedIn. Okay. CEO of one of the companies that one of my clients was applying for said, you know, I saw you do this. That's the kind of person we're looking for. Was not anything that he had talked about. He didn't mention the company. It was just a generalized post. Sorry. Okay, Barbara.
Yeah, thank you. The question I had is that I had last week applied for a role, and I attached my resume, and I went through the company portal directly. I'd seen it on LinkedIn, but I actually went to the company
Perfect.
portal and did it. So then there was no room for there was no opportunity to attach a cover letter either. And I had to fill out an application. And so the application asked me for like my work experience.
I know.
So what I did, and meanwhile, I had attached my resume. So I went, and it was only the last 7 years. So in the last 7 years, I've had two roles, one for 5 years and then previous to that. So I just copy and pasted what was in my resume into my work experience. And then what I did for my cover letter, because there was no way there was no opportunity for attach it, was, is there anything else you want us to know about you? So I went, I actually copied and pasted my cover letter into there, and I just didn't see any other options. But then the one item that I was sort of disturbed about was, and the only way I could submit my application was, it asked for if I had gone to college, and I said yes, and here's my college credentials and so forth, and it would not allow me to go and submit it unless I put when I started and when I graduated, which obviously means then they're going to know how old I am. I mean, I did it. I tried to ignore it, and I did it, but I just found that to be really just disturbing that they were asking that.
It is. And it's one of those things that some companies have kept in as a way of trying to find out our age, even though they know that that's illegal.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't know how good an answer for you around it. In terms of the cover letter, attach it as a page of your resume,
Okay.
as opposed to a separate document. Just make it one page of your resume for that particular one, which works. The only time that somebody really needs to know when you graduated college was when they're doing a reference check or a background check. They don't need it for any other time. There are some workarounds. I'm not going to tell you that they work. I'm going to tell you you can try it. No guarantees. One is to put in like 0101 000 or 2000. So it's not really, no, you want one that doesn't look like a real date.
Yeah, I tried that and it didn't work.
I was going to say, some of them are getting so sophisticated, they're not doing that. So you're going to have to go and do it. The other thing you can do is there's usually a help for those. Ask why that's important and if there's a way to avoid it.
Okay.
Okay. But unfortunately, those are the ways of the world. Now, let me tell you that putting on my recruiter hat, I don't normally look at that stuff. I'm going to read your resume. The application is because the system requires it.
I
The
see.
legalities require it. Might I look to see the age? I might. Okay. I might also put in, if I've got that question, it might be that I'm going to say in my search of my applicant tracking system, only want candidates who applied, who graduated from college before such and, or after such and such a date. And I can do that and we have no way around it.
Right.
Okay, unfortunately, from the HR standpoint, we're trying to avoid those and trying to find ways of working around it. Okay, and eliminating those from the system, but some companies aren't going along yet. Sorry, Barbara.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Other questions? Barbara, is this a new question, Barbara, or was your hand still up?
No, I'm so sorry. Let me lower my hand.
That's all right. Aaron. Oh, Jason, I'm sorry. Jason, sorry about that.
Hi, sorry to jump in again. I had a question.
No, please.
So last week I interviewed with an organization. Interview went really well, and they had said that I was going to move forward, but they also had mentioned that there were two of the exact same title roles in the company. However, there was no two separate standing job descriptions.
Okay.
So I assumed that the same job description was used for both. It was the same job title, but each position was in a different part of the business. So for example, one was working with their clients and the other was an internal role. So my question is, has anybody been in this sort of situation where, I kind of went into an interview for that title role, but didn't know it was not clearly stated in the job description there were two roles open? And then that's kind of part one, is has anybody been in that sort of situation with double role? And part two is, fast forward a couple days, on Monday, I got a rejection email, but in the email, it didn't state which of the two. And so I actually contacted the individual who had originally reached out to me and I said, hey, can you clarify which of the two am I, rejected from both? Am I rejected from one? Because it wasn't clearly stated. So I guess two questions. One, has anybody been in a situation where you interview for a role and you're told there's maybe more than one same job title, which is a little misleading in a way until they clarify things? And two, the other question is, has anybody been rejected from one of those scenarios to then try to clarify with the individual which one you've been rejected from, if not both?
So did you do separate applications for both?
Say it again.
Did you do separate applications for both?
No, just one.
Okay. So what I would do would be to reach out to the HR person. Okay. And say, this was really great. I enjoyed the conversation. And I know that you had the two roles. I wasn't sure which direction, you saw me as a fit for when we set up the initial interview, and whether there is that additional opportunity to look at the second role.
So I did reach out. We had a conversation on Monday on the phone. And the individual said that for the client side, client-facing role, that's what they were rejecting me from. They had filled the position, but that for the internal role, that I was still under consideration and waitlisted, and I should hear later this week, potentially about another round next week, which I saw as good news.
Absolutely.
But part of me was also like, from a company to candidate communications perspective, even some one or two sentences, you're rejected from this one, but you're still being considered for this one.
Yeah. I agree with you. That's poor communication on their part. Yeah. But reaching out to find out where you stood, I think was great. Okay. So the client-facing role was the one that they did not see you as a fit for, but you are still in consideration for the other one.
Right.
Good. Okay. So then I would come back with now another email. Okay. I'm so excited to move forward with this, looking forward to the next conversation with this one. And then one quick thing that makes you a good fit for that other role.
Okay.
Okay. Very short, but it's a way of saying, yes, I know you're not talking about the other role. Don't say I got rejected from it. That's really where I wanted to be. I'm excited to talk about this particular spot. Okay, looking for that next conversation. Here's why I'm excited about this role. What I bring to this.
Will do. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Linda, Erin has a question. Erin Barron.
Let me find her. Or you can. There you are. Yes, Erin.
So I had a interview a few months ago that, well, it was a very weird process altogether, but the one thing that I wanted to ask about was like during the first interview with the first interview with the HR and then the interview with the hiring manager, like one of the first things she asked, or no, I don't know if it was the first thing, but at one point she asked me like, do you have kids? And I'm like, I know you're not allowed to ask this, but I can't say that because I don't want to offend this person. So I just was curious if you had like any suggestions on how to potentially deflect that, or if it's just best to answer it. I mean, I don't think she had any intent, like malicious intent. I think she was just trying to like make conversation and bond. But it was just, I knew it was not a question you're supposed to get, but I was like, all right, I guess.
So was that in the very beginning of the conversation?
Maybe. I can't remember.
Was his phone, Zoom, online, or in
It was
person?
a video interview.
Okay. You might say something like, yeah, and they're really excited because they've got summer plans all year, or they're heavily planned out every day kind of thing. So they're not going to interfere with what's going on. They're all involved in camp and so on. What about you? Do you have kids too? So if you think this is part of the get to know you phase,
I think it was.
okay, and my guess is it probably was at that point, then yes, the quick, yeah, and they're enjoying summer and camp. They're busy every hour,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's all you have to say, because part of that maybe if it wasn't really just the get to know you, do you have to take care of them, especially over the summer? They're going to interfere.
Sure.
But then turn it around and make it that, get to know you as opposed to, why are you asking me this? So do you have kids too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then
I
what are
think
your
I
kids
did. I
doing?
can't remember, but I was just like, oh, I
Yep.
was just very thrown by it. So yeah, just wanted
No,
to-
I understand. Yes, those are illegal questions, but unfortunately you can't point out that they're illegal questions.
Yeah, that wouldn't go well either. Yeah.
Mhm. The one that's worse is one of my clients last week had somebody ask her whether she was planning to have more kids. Which is totally,
Illegal. Yeah.
oh yeah. Mhm.
I don't think I've gotten that in an interview, but yeah, that's
I have,
terrible.
that was a while. Yes, it is. Mhm. All right. Other questions?
Thanks.
Uh-huh. Okay, I want to remind everybody to copy the chat because I noticed that we've got some people leaving. It's about time. So to copy the chat, you can go up to the top where it says Job Search Lunch and Learn. Next time it's going to say Career Search Lunch and Learn. But go up there and to the right, there'll be 3 dots and one of those says Save Chat. Go ahead and do that. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way. Put your cursor someplace in the chat, hit Control-C or Control-A for all, Control-C to copy, and then put it in your own document. I will add it to our private group, so make sure that you've added it there as well. In the meantime, I want to remind you too that these sessions work best for you for all of us, when you tell me what it is you want to talk about. So I really want to know what kinds of topics you want to see considered. If you've got a suggestion, put it in the chat at all in caps topic. Okay, you can also add it. Oh, never mind, because that's not showing up. I have a spreadsheet, I have to find it. That you can add it to. You can put it in the private chat, you can DM me, you can email me. So I want to make sure that we are really finding those topics that work for you. One of the things that I want to think about is that we did a roundtable discussion 2 months ago. And it worked out really well. A roundtable discussion means that you all are the experts. You ask questions of each other, you provide support for each other. I facilitate the discussion. The last one was on what kinds of things were working for you in terms of kind of that outreach to people. So I'd like to have some ideas. I'd like to do another one of those sessions. So if you all have ideas for what those burning questions are that you'd like to ask questions of other people, what kind of a roundtable discussion you would like to have, not that these aren't, but what kind of a roundtable discussion you'd like to have, then please let me know so that we can make sure, again, that these work for you. Other questions, ideas, or suggestions, as a reminder, my information is in the chat. Please connect. Okay. Happy to have a conversation with anybody. I'm going to turn off the recording. I can figure out where.